Thank you for joining us for the presentation of the TigerView 8 dental software. The main window of TigerView is split into two portions. On the left-hand side, we have a patient list with search functionality, and on the right-hand side, we have an image display pane for your currently selected patient. TigerView allows you to add new patients, edit existing patients, and search through your patient database via our search functionality at the top of the patient list. To add a patient into the TigerView software, we're simply going to hit our Add Patient button at the bottom of the patient list, and then proceed to fill in the required fields of information. Once the patient information that is required has been entered, we can hit the OK button at the bottom to add in our patient. Once the patient has been added in, now we're able to edit their information if need be, or acquire or import new diagnostic images. If we want to search for an existing patient in the TigerView software, we simply need to click into the search bar up at the top, type in a couple letters of the patient's last name, and hit the search button. Once we have our patient pulled up, if we select them, we see if they have any images associated with their account, they will be displayed on the right-hand side in the image pane. If we do a search in the TigerView software without entering in any criteria, it's simply going to pull up any patient in the TigerView database. Once we have our patients displaying in the patient list, we simply need to select the patient we'd like to review, and it will display any images associated with their patient account. If we would like to change our search method, all we need to do is go to the Find By field up in the upper left of the patient list, hit the drop-down, and choose which parameters we would like to search by. We are able to search by important information such as patient ID, patient last name and first name, or exam dates where the patient has had images taken to their account. If we need to edit a patient's information within the TigerView software, we simply need to pull that patient up using our search functionality. Once the patient is selected in the patient list, the Edit Patient button will become active, and once we click on that Edit Patient button, we have the ability to modify the patient's information. Once the patient information has been edited, you can click the OK button to save the updated information for the patient. Once we are ready to take new diagnostic images for a patient, we simply need to add that patient into the TigerView software or search them if they already exist. Once the patient has been searched and selected, we now have options to acquire new diagnostic images for that patient. Acquiring images in the TigerView software is a simple process. Simply choose the device that you'd like to use. In our case, I will use a ScanX to scan in some images. Simply select the button, and you will be taken to the Acquire screen for that device. Once the Acquire screen is open, we now have the option to label tooth numbers for our images that we are taking. TigerView also has the capability to automatically mount images in a series of X-rays. Using the auto mount feature within TigerView Acquire is a very simple process. We're going to select our auto mount option up in the upper left. Once we click on the auto mount, we are given our available mounts in a drop-down. For our purposes, we will choose the 4-bite wing mount. The mount will display underneath the available mount field, and then you do have the option of maximizing that mount on the screen for a better visual representation. Once you're ready to acquire, you can choose to ready your device and take your x-rays. We'll load some x-rays into the software now. Once the x-rays are loaded into the software, they will preview for 3 seconds on the screen in a larger fashion, and then load into their respective mount slots. Once the images are loaded into the mount, you have the ability to minimize the mount and see the images in a larger fashion, or you can leave that mount maximized on the screen to view them all together. Once you're done acquiring images for the patient, you simply click the Finish button down in the lower right to save your x-rays into the patient account. If you are using the auto mount, it will prompt you if you would like to create the image as a mount. In this case, we will say yes. That's going to save those images into the patient's account for today's date and time, and then allow us to view those images in the TigerView software wherever you may have it installed. If you'd like to acquire without the auto mount feature turned on, you are able to label your x-rays custom using the tooth charts on the right-hand side. Simply click and drag to select the tooth numbers you'd like to take an image of, and simply take and scan your x-ray. Once your x-ray is scanned into the software, whatever labeling you had selected on the tooth chart is going to apply to that image. And again, all we need to do to save the image in is hit the Finish button down in the lower right. Now the image is saved to the patient's account and available for review. Depending on which device you're using to acquire your images into the TigerView software, you may have different buttons down at the bottom for acquiring. If we have a sensor, we can use our sensor acquire through our Twain option. It will load any sensor installed on the computer and allow you to acquire just as we did previously. The auto mount feature will be in the upper left, regardless of if you are using a CR system or a sensor or a panoramic or cephalometric device to acquire your images. Once images have been acquired for a patient in TigerView and saved, they become available for viewing on any computer you have TigerView installed on. To view the images, you're simply going to select the image or image set that you would like to view, and you can either click the View button down at the bottom or double-click on one of the images you have selected. If we are viewing a set of x-rays that is a part of a mount, the images will display together and allow you to view the individual images in the mount by double-clicking on one of the images. You have a navigation pane when using the mount viewer, where you can cycle through the various images that are a part of the mount. Likewise, you have arrows down in the lower left and lower right that also allow you to navigate through your images in the mount. To exit back to the mounted set, we're simply going to click the small X in the upper right above the displayed date that the image was taken. And that is going to return you to your mounted set where you can view all of the x-rays that are a part of the mount together. To exit out of the viewer window, you simply click the X up in the upper right, and it will return you to the main TigerView screen. If we'd like to open an image that is not a part of a mounted set, we simply click on that image and hit the View option Or again, we can double click on that image to open it up in our viewer window. Once the image is open, the individual image will allow us capabilities for markup, rotation, and different diagnostic tools. On the left-hand side, you have an extensive toolbar. On the right-hand side, we have some tools for editing the image's processing settings. And down in the lower right, we have the capability of resetting the image once it's been edited. Again, if you make any changes to the image in the TigerView viewer, you simply close out of the viewer window once you're done reviewing the image. Now we can review some of the viewer tools available to you in the TigerView software. We can simply open an individual image or multiple images that we want to view and edit. Once the viewer window is open, again we have a full toolbar on the left-hand side and some image quality modification tools on the right-hand side. As far as the image quality modification tools go, you do have a brightness and contrast control. You can click and drag in the brightness and contrast control box to modify the brightness and contrast of the X-ray. Likewise, you have a window leveling tool with 3 different sliders that control different aspects of the image's quality. With the window leveling tool, the main option is going to be the middle slider, the gamma slider. As you slide that slider down, it is going to darken the image as if you shot it with a higher dose of radiation. As you slide that up, it is going to lighten the image as if you shot it with a lower dose of radiation. This is a wonderful tool to be able to adjust the image based on if you did over or underexpose slightly, or you need to modify the image to get better diagnostic properties out of it. If we make an edit to the image that we do not like and we'd like to reset our changes, we simply click the button down in the lower right to reset the original image processing settings. When we click this option, it is going to re-level our brightness and contrast control, as well as our window leveling tool back to their normal state and allow for further editing. Now over to our left-hand side, we have zoom functionality using the zoom in and zoom out functions. Simply click the plus to zoom in, the minus to zoom out, or if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can use the scroll wheel to scroll in or out to zoom in or out on the image. You also have a full screen option. When viewing an individual image, if you hit the full screen option, it will remove the toolbars from the left and right hand sides and give you an image in a full screen mode. It will also turn your cursor into a magnifying glass that you can click and drag across the image to magnify it. To exit full screen mode, simply click the X down at the bottom to return to the viewer window. You can also fully rotate the image using the rotational tools on the left-hand side. You have a rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, rotate 90 degrees clockwise, a 180 degree rotation, a flip left to right, and a flip top to bottom. And then you have the option of restoring the image's original orientation if you've made any rotation changes. So if we rotate this image by 180 degrees, we can simply reset it to its original state using the reset orientation option on the left-hand side. The TigerView viewer also has a measurement tool. With the measurement tool, we simply click the measurement ruler icon on the left-hand side. We're going to get a drop-down bar up at the top of the screen that allows us to choose the units we want to use to measure. We have millimeters, inches, and pixels. It will also allow us to apply a grid to the image based on the units we have selected. With millimeters selected, we can choose a 5, 10, 25, or 50 millimeter grid. And when we select that, it will overlay a grid across the image. If we do not want that grid to display, we simply choose the None option in the Grid Units dropdown. If we want to make a simple line measurement, we select the Line Measurement tool up at the top, and then simply click to place a point. You do not need to drag or hold down the mouse button. You simply click to place your first point, click to place another point, and when we're done making our measurement, we can simply right-click to end the measurement at the last point placed. We also have an area measurement that works similar. Click to place a point, click to place another point, click to place a third point, and if we want to stop at our fourth point, we simply right-click to lock in our final point. We also have an angle measurement. We simply click to place our first point in the angle measurement, click to place a second point, and then click to place our third point to create our angle. And if we want to stop at that point, we simply right-click to stop at the last point placed, and now we have the inside of this angle reading out off to the left. We can also change the font style, and size of the font for our measurements. We can also change our measurement colorization using the Measurement Color tool. We simply select the color that we'd like to measure in and click OK. And now any new measurements that we make are going to be in that color. We can also modify the transparency of our measurements. You can go anywhere from 1 to 100% transparency. We'll cut this one down to 50 and make a new line measurement. And you can see that line is going to be faded out at 50% transparency. You can also change the line width of the measurement. So we do 1, 3, 5, 10, and 25 pixel width. And we can see that reflected after making the change and making a new measurement. We can also show and hide all measurements on the screen by using the toggle option up at the top. We can undo the last measurement made using the Undo Last Measurement button, or undo all measurements made using the Undo All Measurements button. And then the final option is to calibrate the image. If you do need calibration assistance to calibrate your measurements, please give us a call at 1-800-385-9593, option 2 for technical support. We also have an annotation feature in the TigerView viewer. We simply click the Annotate button, which is the pencil on the left-hand side. Once we click that, we're going to get a drop-down up at the top with some various options available to us. We have the option to draw a line, extended line, freehand, circle, square, arrow, laterality markers, draw text, a stamping feature. We can also modify the font type, font style, and font size of our annotations, our colorization of our annotations, our transparency of our annotations, our line width, and then we do again have the option to show and hide any annotations, undo the last annotation, or undo all annotations. For today, we'll show you the Draw Text feature. We simply click the Draw Text option up at the top. We can click and drag across the image to create a text box. Once we release, it's going to give us the option to edit the text. We simply punch in the text that we would like, and then once we click off our box, we simply have that text overlaid on the image here. We can now select that text and move it to wherever we need it to be on the image. And if we need to remove an annotation, we simply can select that annotation by clicking on it and hit the trash can icon up at the top, or simply undo all annotations. Either of those options will work. Once you've deleted an annotation, it is not recoverable, so be sure that when you're removing an annotation or a measurement that you definitely want to remove it. The TigerView viewer also has a magnification option. If we click the magnifying glass on the left-hand side, again, we're going to get a drop-down up at the top. We're able to choose a circle or square magnifying glass. small, medium, or large size, 1, 2, 3, or 4 times magnification, and then some various effects that will apply to the magnifying glass. The default is going to be normal with no effect. So with that, if we click and drag on the image, we have our magnification tool. If we choose the option directly to the left of that, we have a colorization effect, which colorizes the grayscale in the magnifying glass. We also have a negate effect, which negates the grayscale, and a high contrasting effect, which applies further contrast in the magnifying glass. We also have a cropping and masking tool in the TigerView viewer. Over to our left-hand side, we have our cropping and masking icon here. If we simply select the crop option, we can take a subsection of this image by clicking and dragging across the area that we want to clip. Simply release, and the software will create a brand new image based on the area you selected. This image is automatically saved to the patient's account, so if we close out of the viewer here, we can see we now have a new image with all of the original image's information applied to it on the patient's account. The TigerView viewer can also fully negate or colorize an image in the viewer. Simply choose the negate or colorize options down in the lower left. If we choose the negate option, the grayscale in the image will flip, and we now have a negated image. Likewise, if we want to colorize the image, we simply choose the colorize option, and the image's grayscale will be colorized. We can also, with the colorize option, modify the colorization being applied to the image for a different look. And simply to undo the colorization effect, click on the colorize option again. Same thing with the negate option. If we do not want the negate applied, we simply uncheck that option and we're back to our original image. TigerView also has the capability of creating the image as a colorized or negated image. We simply choose the option that we want to apply. We can choose the negate option in this case. And if we want a copy of the image as seen negated on the screen, we simply click the floppy disk icon to create a copy of the image in its current state. So if we click that floppy disk icon, we're going to get an additional image that's now negated. And if we close out of our viewer window, we now see that that image is saved to the patient's account with our original still intact. The TigerView viewer also has an emboss effect. Simply clicking the emboss image button down in the lower left-hand side, we're going to get a little pop-up down at the bottom that allows us to apply an emboss effect at different angles. As we can see, as we change the angle, the effect takes a different look on the image, and we can modify the depth of that effect using the depth option at the bottom. So we can increase or decrease that option using the arrows next to the depth. To undo the emboss option, simply click the emboss button over on the left-hand side, and we return back to our original image. TigerView also allows you to modify the image overlay that you see on the screen. Up in the upper left, you have the patient name, gender, date of birth, and the type of X-ray done. Up in the upper right, you have the date that the image was taken and saved, as well as any tooth numbers applied to the image taken in TigerView. If we want to edit that overlay, we simply click the cogwheel down in the lower left of the viewer. That's going to give us the option to modify the overlay settings. TigerView uses dynamic tags to be able to do this, so if you do want to edit your overlay, please give us a call and we can assist you so that the software is displaying the information you need. Once we're done editing the overlay settings, or if we want to turn the overlay off, we can simply click the Show Hide Overlay Information button, and then once we're done, we click the OK button down at the bottom. and we can turn that overlay off or apply any edits made. We'll turn that back on here by clicking the cogwheel again, unchecking the Show Hide Overlay option, and clicking OK again to return back to our normal state with the image overlay displaying. The TigerView viewer also gives you the option to reset the image based on any changes that have been made to it. Down in the lower left, we have the Reset Original Image option. If we make any edits to the image that include rotation or image quality modification, this option will reset the image back to its original state, how the image was taken. So in this case, if we rotate this image and we make an image quality modification to the X-ray, if we don't like any of the changes we've made, we can simply click the Reset Original Image option down in the lower left. We can confirm that we want to restore the image to its original condition by clicking Yes. And now the rotation and the image quality settings for the image have been reset to their original state. The last option we will review today in the TigerView viewer is going to be the auto-saving feature. Down in the lower right, you're going to notice a floppy disk icon with a down arrow. This is our auto-save image changes on close. While that's active, any changes made to the image, rotation, annotations, measurements, or image quality are going to be automatically saved as they're made. If we do not want those changes automatically saved, we can uncheck that option. You'll see it go to a flat gray. And now if we make any changes and we close out of the viewer window, the software will ask us if we want to save those changes rather than automatically saving those. In our case, we'll say yes to save the change that we made. And now we're returned back to the main screen. Any changes that you've made to an image, both past and present, can be undone. So if we open up this image again and we want to reset it back to its original state, again we can simply choose the Reset Original Image option down in the lower left to restore that image back to its original state. If we want to view the individual images that are a part of a mounted set, we simply right-click anywhere on the right-hand side of the main window. We'll get a little pop-up menu with some various options, and under View, we select the option for Show Mounted Images. Once the mounted images are displaying, you're then able to select them for individual review by selecting the images with a single click and either clicking the View button down at the bottom or double-clicking on one of your selected images. Once again, once the images are open in the viewer window, you have a full set of tools on the left-hand side, as well as your image quality tools on the right-hand side. Again, to exit the viewer window, we simply click the X up in the upper right-hand corner to return to the main screen. If we need to attach the images to an insurance claim or export them for a patient's needs, we simply need to select the images that we want to export. In this case, we can do the mounted set as well as each individual image that is a part of the mounted set. We're simply going to select all of those images, right-click, and under the File option, we will see the option to export those images. For our exporting, we have the capability of exporting to a hard disk or memory stick, so a location on the computer or your office network, or even a USB thumb drive, CD, DVD, or Blu-ray. If your computer has a CD or DVD read-write drive, you're able to write to a CD. DICOM server, if we are sending to a remote PAC storage or sending for a referral to a radiologist, we can use our DICOM server option. And then we do have the capability of emailing the images, so long as you have an email program installed on the computer. In our case, we're going to select the hard disk memory stick option to export to a location on the computer. Once we select that option, we will get an export window on the screen that allows us to choose our export location. It will display on the right-hand side any of the images we had selected for export with the label that the software is going to put on those images when it exports them. On the left-hand side, we have the ability to apply different file options to our exported images. The Apply Viewer Adjustments option applies any adjustments that were made in the viewer window. The Image Annotation option will apply any annotation or measurement markup done to the X-rays. And then the Embed Image Overlay option allows for the patient information to be displayed on the image itself. We can change the file format in which we want to export as. We boast the ability to do TIFF images, JPEG images, PNG images, and DICOM images. And then again, we are able to modify our export location simply by selecting the Browse button above the Export Location bar. We can select our location that we want to export to, or create a new folder wherever we would like it to be. In our case, we'll do it to our Pictures folder, and we'll make a new folder called TigerView Exports. Once we select that directory, we're able to click OK to set our export location for the images. At this point, we simply hit the Export button down at the bottom of the export window, and our images will be exported to the specified location. If we would like to print our images, we simply can select the images that we would like to print, whether they are individual images or a part of a mounted set. We simply select the images we would like to print, hit our print option down at the bottom. Once we click our print option, our print window will load with the images in a report style layout. With the print layout, you're able to choose how many images you would like to be printed per page. You have the ability to do 1 per page, 2 side by side, 2 top to bottom, 4 in a grid style view, or you can print any number of images on one page with the N-to-1 function. Once we choose our layout option, we're able to choose other various options, including showing or hiding the header or footer on the report style printout. The header is going to include the office information entered into the software. The footer is going to include the patient information as well as the provider information, the date that the image was taken, and any tooth numbering that was applied to these images. And then we have the ability to show or hide any annotations that were made on these images, as well as any measurements made on these images. Once we have our layout options selected, we can choose what printer we would like to print to through the drop-down. We can choose our paper size, our resolution, our page layout, whether we want portrait or landscape. The margins, we have auto margin on by default. And then we can choose to print the images to a sheet of paper down at the bottom. Once you're done printing, you can simply close the print window and you're returned back to the main screen of TigerView. To create a mounted image series or edit an existing mounted image series, click the Mount button down at the bottom. Once the Mount viewer comes up, you're able to select which mount you'd like to edit, and then you can hit the Edit Mounts button to enter the mount editor. To edit an existing mount, simply select the mount from the drop-down, hit the Edit button off to the right. And now you see we have a couple of different options to be able to edit this mount. We can add in additional placeholders. We can renumber or reorder the mount. Or we can apply different tooth numbering to our mount slots by simply selecting a slot and right-clicking, choosing the option for tooth number, and then modifying the tooth numbers being applied to the slot via the chart. Once you've selected the tooth numbers that you'd like, click OK, and simply click Save to save any changes you've made. To add a new mount, simply click the Add button in the Mount Editor. Select the placeholder you'd like to use. We'll use the placeholder for bite wings and PAs. And then simply click in order to place these mount slots that you would like to use. If you need a PA, you can right-click to change it to a vertical mount slot, and then right-click again to change it back for bite wings. Once you've placed your mount placeholders, you can simply give your mount a description. And then if you'd like to apply tooth number labeling to your slots, simply select a slot using the cursor icon and right-click, choose the tooth number option, and select the tooth numbers you'd like to apply to the mount slot. Click OK. Those tooth numbers will apply to that slot. And once you have your mount in order with the tooth numbering labeled and your description set, you can hit Save to save that as a new mount. TigerView gives you the option to remove images from a patient's account. If we don't want some of the images that we have on the patient's account, whether they were created through the viewer window or they were images freshly taken on the patient, we can simply choose the images that we do not want any longer, and down at the bottom we can choose our reject option, which is a trash can. We hit that reject option and we can simply type out the word delete to remove those images and confirm by clicking OK. Once those images have been removed, TigerView actually does hold on to those so they can be recovered for a 180-day span. To recover anything that has been removed from the software, simply right-click on the right-hand side. Under the View option, we can tell the software to show us any rejected images, and once those rejected images are showing, we can select the ones that we would like to restore and simply choose the Restore button down at the bottom to restore those to the patient's account. Once we're done with that, we can simply right-click, and under the View option, we can tell the software to stop showing us any rejected images. TigerView also boasts some additional features that can be found through the cogwheel down in the lower right-hand side. If we click that cogwheel, we're going to get a window that opens up that gives us our database information. We recommend not touching the database information without one of our technicians being there to advise you. Outside of that, we have a display option on the right-hand side. If we choose that display option, we will get the ability to modify our current display. We can change the colorization of TigerView. We have the background color, the text color, and icons color. If you want to change the colorization of the software to better suit your practice, simply click on the background color. It's going to pop open a color menu option. You can simply choose the color that you want to set the software to and click OK. And then once you've selected that, you're simply going to click Apply down at the bottom of the TigerView 8 options window, and the software will update with any changes that you've made. We'll change it back to our default colorization here and reapply that. Underneath that, we have our Practice Information tab. With our Practice Information tab, TigerView allows you to enter in your full practice information or modify existing practice information. We also give you the ability to enter in your office logo through our Browse option, by simply selecting your Office logo file from your computer. Next to our Practice tab, we have our Users tab. Our Users tab allows for multiple different logins to the TigerView software. We can enter in multiple provider accounts, X-ray technician accounts, or even Office Manager accounts. Simply by clicking on the New Provider option over on the left-hand side, filling out the required fields of information, and once we have our required fields of information entered, we're just going to choose our account type. We can choose between admin provider, a normal provider, an X-ray technician, or an office manager. We'll choose our normal provider account here, and we can click Add down at the bottom. What this does is adds a user to the software that you can now log in as. And simply now we can click OK. And when we close out of the software will now give us the option to log in as a different user. If we open up our TigerView 8 options window again, we can add additional users, again by selecting New Provider, filling out the information and choosing our account type and hitting Add to add those providers in. If we do not want a provider or account that we've created, we're simply going to choose that user from the list and choose the delete option to remove that user from the software. Underneath our Users tab, we have our Security tab. TigerView gives you the option to require a login for all of your users. Simply by checking the Require Login option, we can enforce password policy. We can also deny access from one provider's patients to another by unchecking the Allow Access to Other Providers' Images. So if you do have a multi-provider practice, you can separate your providers out and require logins so that they do not have access to each other's patients. You can also hide patient information in the patient list over on the left-hand side by checking the Hide Patient Information option, and you can turn off the Require Delete Password if you no longer want to type out the word delete to remove images or patients from the software. Next to our Security tab, we have our Hardware tab. With our Hardware tab, we have the ability to see all of the different hardwares that TigerView interfaces with. This is a pretty extensive list, but we have even more options through our Twain option. We can interface with most sensors on the market using our Twain sensor option, as well as various panoramic and cephalometric X-ray devices. Once we have our hardware selected, we simply click Apply and OK, and those buttons become active in the software for you to use those devices to acquire X-rays. If you need any assistance with setting up hardware or getting it connecting in TigerView, please give us a call. Again, our support number is 1-800-385-9593, option 2 for technical support. Our last option is our Servers tab, and that's going to be for DICOM sending. So we do have the ability to DICOM send to a remote storage PACS. Being a radiologist, or if you do have a PACS system, we can DICOM print, and we do have modality worklist capabilities to interface with other softwares. If you need assistance setting this up, again, please give us a call at our technical support center, and we'd be happy to assist you. If you'd like more information about the TigerView software or the version of the software that you're using, please select the little orange dot with the eye in it down in the lower right. Once we click this option, we're going to get a pop-up about TigerView 8. It'll let you know the version you're using, the modality you're using it under. It'll give you a link to our Televir Systems website where you can find more information about the software. It also has our technical support phone number listed in the software, as well as access to our software manual. You can also view your licensing details within the software by clicking the License Detail option down in the lower right of the About TigerView 8 window. Thank you for joining us for this training of the TigerView 8 dental software. If you have any further questions, issues, or concerns, or need further walkthrough, please call us at 1-800-385-9593.